Lieutenant Adam Blackwell stood at the viewport of his small diplomatic vessel, watching as the red planet of Zoraxis grew larger. This was humanity's first contact with the Zoraxian Empire, and he had been chosen to represent Earth. Adam was nervous but proud. At 32 years old, with 10 years in the United Earth Diplomatic Corps, this was the mission of a lifetime. "Preparing for landing, Lieutenant," said the ship's eye. "Zoraxian Control has granted permission to dock at their capital spaceport." Adam straightened his blue uniform and checked his appearance one last time. His short brown hair was neatly combed, and his diplomatic insignia gleamed on his chest. First impressions mattered, especially with a species known for their military might. The ship landed with a gentle thud. Adam took a deep breath and walked to the airlock. The doors opened to reveal a delegation of tall, reptilian beings with scales that shimmered green and gold in the sunlight. Their eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and they stood nearly 7 feet tall. "Welcome to Zoraxis, human," said the lead Zoraxian. "I am Sub-Commander Thraz. You will follow me to meet High Chancellor Vexthor." Adam bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Lieutenant Adam Blackwell of Earth. I bring greetings and hopes for friendship between our worlds." The Zoraxians did not return the gesture. They simply turned and walked toward a large building made of red stone and black metal. Adam followed, noting how the Zoraxian citizens stopped to stare at him as they passed. None seemed friendly. The palace of High Chancellor Vexthor was impressive. Tall spires reached toward the orange sky, and armed guards stood at every entrance. Adam was led to a grand hall where dozens of Zoraxian officials waited. At the center sat High Chancellor Vexthor on a throne made of what looked like bones. "So this is what a human looks like," said Vexthor, his voice deep and cold. "Smaller than I expected." Adam stepped forward and bowed more deeply this time. "High Chancellor, I bring peaceful greetings from Earth. We hope to establish—" "Yes, yes," interrupted Vexthor. "Your message was clear. Earth wishes to trade and share knowledge. But what can your kind offer the Zoraxian Empire? We have conquered 12 systems. Our technology is advanced. Our military is feared across this sector of the galaxy. Earth believes in mutual benefit." Adam replied carefully. "We have unique technologies and resources that might interest you, and we seek to learn from your civilization as well." The formal talks continued for hours. Adam presented Earth's proposal for trade and cultural exchange. The Zoraxians seemed unimpressed, but not hostile. Then came the ceremonial meal. Adam was given a cup of Zoraxian wine. He raised it as he had seen the others do and said, "To new friendships and prosperous relations." The room went silent. Vexthor's eyes narrowed to slits. "You dare," the High Chancellor hissed. "You drink before the war prayer. And you speak of friendship while committing such disrespect." Adam lowered his cup immediately. "I apologize, High Chancellor. I didn't know." Silence. Vexthor stood, towering over everyone. "This human shows our sacred customs no respect. This is how Earth sends a diplomat, with ignorance and insult." "Please," Adam said, "it was an honest mistake. If you had explained the proper protocol." Vexthor moved with shocking speed. He knocked the cup from Adam's hand and grabbed him by the throat. On Zoraxis, such insults are paid for with blood. The guards surrounded Adam. He tried to remain calm. "High Chancellor, my government will consider this an act of war. Please reconsider." Vexthor laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the hall. "War? With humans? Your species is young and weak. One human diplomat is nothing." "You don't understand," Adam said quietly. "Humans protect their own." "Take him away," Vexthor ordered. "Prepare him for public execution in 3 days. Let all Zoraxis see what happens to those who disrespect our ways." As the guards dragged him away, Adam managed to press the emergency beacon hidden in his sleeve. The signal would reach Earth in hours. He knew what would happen next, and he almost felt sorry for the Zoraxians. They had no idea what they had just started. Fleet Admiral Olivia Reeves was in the middle of a budget meeting when the emergency signal came through. Her wrist communicator flashed red, and she immediately stood up. "Meeting adjourned," she said sharply. The other officers knew better than to question her. In the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform, technicians worked quickly to trace the signal. "It's from Lieutenant Blackwell, Mom," said a young officer. "Code red distress beacon activated 43 minutes ago from Zoraxis." Olivia's face hardened. She had warned against sending just one diplomat to the Zoraxians, but the Peace Council had overruled her. "Show me everything we have on the Zoraxian Empire," she ordered. Screens lit up around the room with images, data, and reports. The reptilian species had a history of conquest and viewed other races as beneath them. They respected only strength and saw diplomacy as weakness. "Get me the president," Olivia said. Within hours, an emergency session of Earth's United Council was in session. Olivia stood before the world's leaders, her gray-streaked hair pulled back tightly, her uniform spotless. "The Zoraxians have detained Lieutenant Blackwell and plan to execute him in 3 days," she reported. "They've made no demands and have rejected all our communication attempts." President Garcia frowned. "What are our options, Admiral?" "We send a fleet," Olivia said without hesitation. "The UES Valiant can reach Zoraxis in 36 hours with our new drive technology. Captain Noah Sullivan is our best tactical officer." "A show of force could escalate the situation," argued Councillor Martinez. "With respect," Olivia countered. "The situation escalated when they threatened to execute our diplomat for a cultural misunderstanding. The Zoraxians only respect power. We need to show them that humans aren't the easy target they think we are." After 2 hours of debate, the vote was cast. Earth would respond with force. Captain Noah Sullivan was asleep when the call came. He was on the Valiant within 30 minutes, reviewing mission parameters as his crew prepared for emergency departure. "We're authorized to use whatever force necessary to retrieve Lieutenant Blackwell," Noah told his officers in the briefing room. "But the President wants to avoid all-out war if possible." Dr. Samantha Wright, the ship's diplomatic specialist, raised her hand. "Captain, I've studied the Zoraxian culture. They see compromise as weakness, but they do have a strict code of honor. If we can challenge them on their terms, we might avoid bloodshed." Noah nodded. "That's why you're coming with me if we make contact. First priority is locating Blackwell." The Valiant departed Earth orbit with 5 support ships. As they accelerated to faster-than-light speed, Noah studied Adam Blackwell's file. He had never met the diplomat, but now he was risking his ship and crew to save him. That's what humans did. They protected their own. In his prison cell on Zoraxis, Adam sat against the cold wall. The cell was designed for Zoraxian anatomy, with no bed or chairs suited for humans. He had been given no food or water since his arrest. A guard appeared at the energy barrier. "Human, a High Chancellor wishes you to know that your execution will be broadcast across our empire. Your death will teach others about Zoraxian superiority." Adam looked up, his face calm despite his fear. "You should know that Earth won't let this stand. There's still time to release me and avoid what's coming." The guard laughed. "What could humans possibly do against the might of our empire? Your species is young and weak." "We're young," Adam agreed, "but not weak. And we don't abandon our people." As the guard walked away, Adam closed his eyes. He had to stay alive and alert. Earth would be coming for him. He just needed to survive until then. In the darkness of space, the Valiant and its escort ships raced toward Zoraxis, carrying humanity's response to those who had dared threaten one of their own. The UES Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zoraxian system. Captain Noah Sullivan stood on the bridge, watching the red planet appear on the main screen. 5 Zoraxian warships detected, Captain, reported his sensor officer. "They're moving to intercept." Noah nodded calmly. "Open a channel to their command ship." The screen changed to show a Zoraxian commander, his scales darker than those Noah had seen in the briefing files. A sign of higher rank, Dr. Wright had told him. "This is Captain Noah Sullivan of the United Earth ship Valiant. We demand the immediate release of Lieutenant Adam Blackwell." The Zoraxian commander hissed. "I am War Leader Kraz. Your demands mean nothing here, human. Your diplomat insulted our High Chancellor and will pay the price." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "War Leader, by your own laws, a cultural misunderstanding during first contact cannot be punished by death. Section 12 of your Military Honor Code states this clearly." Kraz looked surprised but quickly recovered. "You know nothing of our ways. The High Chancellor himself declared the offense worthy of death." "Then we request to speak with the High Chancellor," Noah said. "He does not speak with lesser beings," Kraz replied. "Leave our system now, or we will destroy your ships." Noah's face hardened. "War Leader, we don't want conflict. But make no mistake, we will not leave without our diplomat. You have 1 hour to release him, or we will take action." Kraz laughed, showing sharp teeth. "Your primitive ships are no match for our fleet. We have conquered 12 systems and destroyed anyone who opposed us." "You've never faced humans before," Noah said quietly. 1 hour, War Leader." The screen went dark. Dr. Wright turned to Noah. "They won't release him, Captain. In their culture, backing down is worse than defeat." "I know," Noah replied. "Lieutenant Garcia, what did our scans show about their ships?" "Their shields operate on a frequency we can disrupt," Garcia said. "And their weapons, while powerful, are slow to recharge. We have superior speed and targeting systems." "Good. Prepare a tactical plan to disable their lead ship without destroying it, and ready a rescue team. We need to find out where they're holding Blackwell." On Zoraxis, Adam was brought before High Chancellor Vexthor again. The Grand Hall was now filled with even more officials and military leaders. "The execution has been moved to tomorrow," Vexthor announced. "Human ships have entered our system, making demands." He laughed. "They think they can threaten the Zoraxian Empire." Adam felt a surge of hope. Earth had come for him. "Chancellor, there's still time to avoid conflict," Adam said. "Release me, and my people will leave your system peacefully." Vexthor stepped close to Adam, towering over him. "You still don't understand. We are Zoraxians. We do not bend to threats. Your ships will be destroyed, and you will still die." A young Zoraxian officer hurried into the hall and approached Vexthor, speaking quietly in their language. The Chancellor's expression changed to one of disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. "What's happened?" Adam asked, guessing from Vexthor's reaction. The Chancellor ignored him, barking orders to his military leaders. The hall erupted in activity. A guard grabbed Adam roughly and began dragging him back toward his cell. "What's going on?" Adam demanded. The guard looked shaken. "Your human ships. They just disabled our largest warship in seconds. No one was killed, but the ship is completely powerless." Adam couldn't help smiling. "I told you, humans protect their own." "It changes nothing," the guard snapped. "The High Chancellor has ordered the defense fleet to destroy your ships." "They can try," Adam said. In space, Noah watched as the disabled Zoraxian warship drifted powerless. The precision strike had worked perfectly. The other 4 ships were regrouping, clearly shocked by what had happened. "Message from War Leader Kraz, Captain," said the communications officer. "Put him through," Noah ordered. Kraz's face appeared, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "This is your final warning, human. Leave now or be destroyed." Noah leaned forward. "This is my final warning. Release Lieutenant Blackwell, or next time, we won't just disable your ships." The true test of wills had begun. War Leader Kraz cut the communication link with the human ship. His scales darkened with rage as he turned to his officers. "How did they disable the pride of Zoraxis so easily?" he demanded. "Unknown, War Leader," said his second-in-command. "Their weapon penetrated our shields as if they weren't there. We've never seen such technology." Kraz slammed his fist on the control panel. The High Chancellor demands we destroy them. Prepare all remaining ships for attack. Back on the Valiant, Noah watched the Zoraxian fleet carefully. They're moving into attack formation, said Lieutenant Garcia. Hold position, Noah ordered. Let them make the first move. Dr. Wright studied the data on her screen. Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. There's something interesting about their biology in these medical files we intercepted. What is it? Noah asked, not taking his eyes off the approaching Zoraxian ships. Their ruling caste has a genetic difference from the rest of their population. It makes them stronger and more aggressive, but it could also be a weakness. Before Wright could explain further, the tactical officer shouted, "They're firing." Energy beams shot from the 4 Zoraxian warships, heading straight for the Valiant. But the human ship moved with incredible speed, dodging the attacks with ease. The Zoraxian weapons were powerful but slow. "Return fire," Noel commanded. "Target their weapon systems only." The Valiant fired precisely, hitting 2 more Zoraxian ships. Their weapons went offline instantly. The other 2 ships continued to attack, but couldn't hit the faster human vessels. "Captain," called the communications officer, "we're receiving an emergency signal from Proxima Centauri colony." Noah felt a chill. Proxima Centauri was Earth's first colony, home to over 3,000 people. "Put it through." The screen showed a terrified human woman, smoke filling the background. "This is Governor Kelly at Proxima Centauri. We're under attack by Zoraxian forces. They bypassed our defenses somehow. Civilian casualties there." The transmission cut off. The bridge went silent. Then Noah spoke, his voice cold. "They're attacking our colony while we're trying to negotiate. Dr. Wright, contact Admiral Reeves immediately." In her office on Earth, Admiral Olivia Reeves received the news about Proxima Centauri with a grim expression. The attack had killed over 200 civilians already, with more injured. The Zoraxians had sent a separate fleet while their main forces kept the Valiant busy. "They've made their choice," she said to her staff. "Transmit authorization code Black to Captain Sullivan. And prepare Project Nemesis for deployment." Her second-in-command paled. "Project Nemesis, but Mom, that's only 4. "I know what it's for," Olivia interrupted. "They attacked civilian targets without warning. They're executing our diplomat. This ends now." On the prison planet, Adam had been moved to a different cell. This one had other prisoners, all Zoraxians. One of them, smaller than the others with lighter-colored scales, watched Adam with interest. "You are the human they plan to execute?" the Zoraxian asked in accented English. Adam nodded. "And you are?" "I am Crit, former science advisor, now prisoner for speaking against the High Chancellor's wars of expansion." "Why would they put you in here with me?" Adam asked. Crit's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Because tomorrow, we both die. I am from the lower caste. My execution will not be broadcast like yours, but it will happen just the same." Adam studied his new cellmate carefully. "You don't seem afraid." "I have been expecting death since I spoke out," Crit said. "But I am curious. Your people came for you, just a single diplomat. Why?" "Because that's what humans do," Adam replied. "We don't abandon our people, no matter what." Crit seemed to consider this. "The ruling caste would never risk themselves for a lower caste like me. Perhaps your species has something to teach mine." Before Adam could respond, an alarm began to sound throughout the prison. Guards ran past their cell, shouting orders. "What's happening?" Adam asked. Crit listened to the guard's words, his eyes widening. "Your ships have disabled half our fleet without destroying a single vessel." He looked at Adam with new respect. "Perhaps the High Chancellor has made a mistake in threatening your kind. It's not too late to fix it," Adam said, "but I'm afraid time is running out." Adam looked around the prison cell, searching for any weakness in its design. The alarms had stopped, but the guards were still in a state of panic. This might be his only chance to escape. "Crit," he whispered, Do you know the layout of this prison? The Zoraxian nodded. I helped design the security systems before I spoke out against the High Chancellor. Then you know how to get past them. Crit's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting escape? It would mean death if we fail. We're already scheduled for death. Adam pointed out. I'd rather die trying to get free. After a moment, Crit nodded. There is a flaw in the cell barrier. The energy field weakens for exactly 2 seconds when the guards change shifts. It happens every 4 hours. Adam checked the small timekeeper hidden in the heel of his boot. The guards hadn't found it during their search. When is the next shift change? In 20 minutes, Crit said. But even if we get out of this cell, the prison is full of guards. We would need a distraction. Adam smiled. I think I can manage that. He pulled up his sleeve to reveal a small device embedded in his skin, standard issue for diplomats in high-risk areas. It can create a small electromagnetic pulse, not enough to hurt anyone, but enough to mess with their systems. Crit looked impressed. Your people prepare well. We try to think ahead, Adam said. They spent the next 15 minutes planning their escape. Crit explained that they would need to reach the communication center if they wanted to contact the human ships. When the time came, Adam activated the device in his arm. The lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, an explosion sounded. It was bigger than Adam had expected. What happened? He asked. Your device must have interacted with our power systems, Crit explained. It created a cascade failure. As predicted, the energy barrier of their cell weakened. Adam and Crit slipped through quickly, finding themselves in an empty corridor. This way, Crit whispered, leading Adam through the maze-like prison. They moved quietly, hiding whenever guards ran past. The prison was in chaos. Alarms blared again, and through the windows, Adam could see fires burning in another section of the building. The lower levels hold political prisoners like me, Crit explained as they moved. The upper levels are for war criminals and violent offenders. And where are we headed? Adam asked. The communication center is on the middle level, but we must be careful. It will be guarded. They reached a stairwell and began to climb. Adam was grateful for his military training as they ascended 6 flights of stairs. Crit, despite his smaller size, kept pace easily. At the middle level, they peered through the door. 2 guards stood outside the communication center, looking nervous. We need a diversion, Adam whispered. I have a better idea, Crit replied. He removed a small badge from under his prison clothes. My security clearance. They never took it when they arrested me. The system hasn't been updated to show I'm a prisoner. Adam was skeptical. Will that still work? Crit shrugged. Only one way to find out. They waited until the guards looked away. Then Crit stepped out confidently, Adam following behind him. Crit spoke sharply in the Zoraxian language, holding up his badge. The guards straightened immediately, clearly intimidated. After a brief exchange, the guards stepped aside. Crit and Adam entered the communication center, finding it empty except for one technician who looked up in surprise. Before the technician could speak, Adam moved quickly, using a fighting technique he had learned in training. The technician slumped unconscious but unharmed. Impressive, Crit said. Now let me access the system. Crit's fingers moved quickly over the controls. I can open a secure channel to your ships. But we must hurry. The security override won't last long. Adam nodded. Can you also access information about what's happening? Why is the prison in such chaos? Crit pulled up several screens, his eyes widening as he read. Your ships have completely disabled our defense fleet without killing anyone. And, he paused, looking troubled. The High Chancellor has ordered an attack on your colony world. Proxima Centauri, Adam said grimly. How bad? Hundreds dead, Crit said quietly. I am sorry. This is not the way of all Zoraxians. Only the ruling caste desires such violence. Adam's face hardened. Open that channel to the Valiant. Now, on the bridge of the UES Valiant, Captain Noah Sullivan watched the disabled Zoraxian ships drift in space. His tactical victory felt hollow after hearing about the attack on Proxima Centauri. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," said the communications officer. "It's on an emergency frequency." Noah straightened. "Put it through." The screen flickered, then showed Adam Blackwell's face. He looked thin and tired, but very much alive. "Lieutenant Blackwell reporting, Captain," Adam said with a small smile. "I've made a friend down here who helped me escape." The bridge crew broke into cheers. Noah raised a hand for quiet. "Good to see you alive, Lieutenant. What's your situation?" "I'm in the prison's communications center with Crit, a Zoraxian scientist who was imprisoned for opposing the High Chancellor. We don't have much time before they discover us." Crit moved into view beside Adam. "Captain Sullivan, I must tell you something important. Our ruling caste is using this conflict to strengthen their power. Most Zoraxians do not support this war." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "This confirms my analysis, Captain. The ruling caste is genetically different from the rest of the population, more aggressive and power-hungry." "Can you get to an extraction point, Lieutenant?" Noah asked. Adam shook his head. "The prison is on high alert, but Crit has access to information about Project Nemesis." Noah exchanged a surprised look with Dr. Wright. "How do you know about that?" Crit answered, "Your communication with Earth was intercepted. I know that Admiral Reeves has authorized this project. If it is what I think it is, I beg you to reconsider. It's a targeted bioweapon," Dr. Wright explained, "designed to affect only the ruling caste of Zoraxians based on their unique genetic markers. It would cause their extinction while leaving the rest of the population unharmed." Adam looked shocked. Earth would really do that? Wipe out an entire class of beings? After the attack on Proxima Centauri, the president approved it as a last resort. Noah said grimly, "It's being prepared for deployment now." "There must be another way," Adam insisted. "Crit, tell them what you told me about your society." Crit's voice was urgent. "The ruling caste makes up less than 2% of our population, but they control everything. They have kept the rest of us in virtual slavery for generations. Many of us have tried to resist, but we lack the power." "So you're saying the majority of Zoraxians would welcome their removal?" Dr. Wright asked. "Yes, but not through extinction," Crit said. "Such an action would haunt relations between our species forever." The screen suddenly flickered as alarms sounded in the background. "We're out of time," Adam said. "They've found us." "Hold on, Lieutenant," Noah ordered. "We're coming for you." "Dr. Wright, contact Admiral Reeves. Tell her we need to delay Project Nemesis. We're going to try something else." The screen went dark as the connection cut off. Noah turned to his officers. "Prepare a strike team. We're going to extract Lieutenant Blackwell and his Zoraxian friend." On Zoraxis, Adam and Crit backed away from the communication console as the door to the center burst open. 4 guards rushed in, weapons raised. "Surrender, escaped prisoners," the lead guard shouted. Adam looked at Crit, who nodded slightly. They raised their hands. "Take them to the High Chancellor," ordered the guard. "He wants to speak with the human before the execution." As they were marched out of the communication center, Adam whispered to Crit, "This might actually work in our favor. If we can speak directly to Vexthor, maybe we can convince him to end this before it's too late." "The High Chancellor does not listen to reason," Crit replied quietly. "But perhaps he will listen to fear when he learns what your people are preparing." "Let's hope so," Adam said. "For all our sakes." In the Grand Palace, High Chancellor Vexthor paced angrily, his tail lashing back and forth. Reports of the human's technology had shaken him, though he would never admit it. And now, the escaped human prisoner had been found communicating with the enemy ships. "Bring them to me," he hissed to his guards. It is time to show this human the true power of the Zoraxian Empire. Adam and Crit were brought before High Chancellor Vexthor in the Grand Hall. The room was filled with members of the ruling caste, their dark green scales gleaming in the red light of Zoraxis's sun streaming through tall windows. "The escaped prisoners, High Chancellor," announced the guard, pushing them forward. Vexthor circled them slowly, his tail dragging on the polished floor. "You continue to surprise me, human. No one has ever escaped that prison before." "Perhaps you underestimated humans," Adam replied calmly. "And you," Vexthor said, turning to Crit, "a lower caste betraying your own kind to help an alien." Crit stood straighter. "I betrayed no one. I helped someone who was unjustly imprisoned, while you betray our people by leading them into a war they cannot win." Whispers spread through the hall at Crit's boldness. Vexthor hissed in anger. "You speak of things you do not understand," the Chancellor said. "The human ships may have temporarily disabled our fleet, but reinforcements are already on their way." "Chancellor," Adam said urgently, "you need to understand what's coming. Earth has authorized Project Nemesis." The name meant nothing to Vexthor, but Crit gasped. "Project Nemesis is a targeted bioweapon," Adam continued. "It affects only the ruling caste's unique genetic markers. If deployed, it will cause the extinction of your entire caste, while leaving the rest of the Zoraxian population unharmed." The hall fell silent. Vexthor's eyes narrowed to slits. "You lie," he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "He speaks the truth," Crit said. "I saw the communications myself. Their scientists have identified the genetic difference that makes the ruling caste distinct. The weapon targets only that genetic sequence." One of the Chancellor's advisors stepped forward. "High Chancellor, if this is true, we must reconsider our position." "Silence," Vexthor shouted. "This is clearly a trick to make us surrender." He turned back to Adam. "Your people would not dare to wipe out an entire caste. You humans claim to value life." "We do," Adam said. "That's why I'm urging you to end this now before it's too late. The attack on our colony changed everything. Hundreds of innocent civilians died. Earth will respond." In space above Zoraxis, the UES Valiant prepared for its most dangerous mission yet. Captain Noah Sullivan addressed the strike team in the launch bay. "Lieutenant Blackwell and his Zoraxian ally are being held in the palace in the capital city," he explained. "We have their exact location thanks to the tracker in Blackwell's emergency beacon." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "I just received word from Admiral Reeves. Project Nemesis is ready for deployment, but she's given us 6 hours to try our plan first." Noah nodded grimly. "Then we have 6 hours to extract our people and convince the Zoraxian leadership to stand down." He looked at each member of the strike team. "This mission is completely voluntary. We'll be dropping into hostile territory with minimal support." Every member of the team stayed in place, ready to go. Noah felt a surge of pride. "Let's bring our people home," he said. Back in the palace, Vexthor had retreated to consult with his inner circle, leaving Adam and Crit under heavy guard. "Do you think he believed us?" Adam asked quietly. "He believes enough to be worried," Crit replied, "but his pride may prevent him from acting on that belief." Suddenly, the palace shook with a powerful explosion. Alarms blared throughout the building. "What was that?" Adam asked. A guard rushed into the room. "High Chancellor, human ships have entered the atmosphere. They're attacking the defense installations around the palace." Vexthor emerged from his private chamber, his face twisted with rage. "Kill the prisoners now," he ordered. "Then evacuate to the bunker." As guards moved toward them with weapons raised, Adam looked at Crit. "I'm sorry I got you into this." Crit's mouth formed the Zoraxian equivalent of a smile. "Do not apologize, human. In meeting you, I found hope for my people." The guards took aim. Adam closed his eyes, waiting for the end. A blinding flash of light filled the room. When Adam opened his eyes again, The guards lay unconscious on the floor. In the doorway stood Captain Noah Sullivan and a team of human soldiers. "Lieutenant Blackwell," Noah said with a smile, "I believe your diplomatic mission is concluded. Time to go home." "We need to move quickly," Captain Sullivan said, tossing Adam a weapon. "The palace is in chaos, but it won't last long." "Wait," Adam said. "We can't leave yet. Not without Vexthor." Noah frowned. "Lieutenant, our mission is to extract you and your ally. We have less than 5 hours before Project Nemesis is deployed. That's why we need Vexthor," Adam insisted. "If he orders a complete surrender and calls back the ships attacking our colony, Earth might stand down." Crit stepped forward. "He fled to the royal bunker. I know the way." Noah hesitated, then nodded. "Lead on, but we move fast." They raced through the palace corridors, encountering little resistance. Most guards had fled during the human attack. Crit led them down a hidden stairway to a heavily reinforced door. "The bunker entrance," he explained. "It requires ruling case DNA to open." "Stand back," ordered one of the strike team's soldiers. He placed a small device on the door. There was a soft hum, then the door slid open. Inside, they found Vexthor and 5 of his top advisors preparing to evacuate in an underground transport. "Stop," Noah commanded, his team aiming their weapons at the Zoraxians. Vexthor hissed in fury. "How dare you invade our sacred bunker?" Adam stepped forward. "High Chancellor, this is your last chance. Surrender now and recall your ships from Proxima Centauri. If you do, there's still hope to prevent Project Nemesis." "Never," Vexthor spat. "I would rather my entire caste perish than bow to humans." One of his advisors, an older Zoraxian with faded scales, turned to Vexthor. "High Chancellor, reconsider. Our people will survive without us, but if we can prevent our extinction." "Silence, Trax," Vexthor shouted. "This is about more than survival. This is about honor." "No," Crit said, stepping forward. "This is about your pride. You cannot accept that you made a mistake when you threatened a human." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Adam's communicator beeped. It was Admiral Reeves. "Lieutenant Blackwell," she said, her voice clear through the device. "Captain Sullivan, I'm glad to see you're alive, but I must inform you that the Zoraxian attack on Proxima Centauri continues. We've lost over 500 civilians now." Adam looked at Vexthor, ordered them to stop. Now, the High Chancellor's eyes burned with hatred, but for the first time, there was also fear. "And if I do, what guarantee do I have that you won't deploy your weapon anyway?" Noah stepped forward. "You have my word as a captain of the United Earth Fleet. Stop the attack, and we will negotiate a peace." Vexthor looked at each of them, then at his advisors, who nodded urgently. Finally, his shoulders slumped. "Very well," he said. He pressed a communication device on his wrist. "This is High Chancellor Vexthor. All ships at the human colony are ordered to cease attack and return to Zoraxis immediately. Authentication code, Ruler Prime Alpha." Admiral Reeves' voice came through again moments later. "Our sensors confirm the Zoraxian ships are withdrawing from Proxima Centauri." 3 months later, Adam stood on the observation deck of the newly established Earth Embassy on Zoraxis. Beside him stood Crit, now wearing the formal robes of the Transitional Council leader. "The new government elections are next month," Crit said. "For the first time, all castes will vote." Adam smiled. "Earth is pleased with the progress. The trade agreements are benefiting both our worlds." "And what of Project Nemesis?" Crit asked quietly. "Dismantled," Adam assured him. Admiral Reeves personally oversaw its destruction once the peace treaty was signed. They looked out at the capital city, where humans and Zoraxians now walked together through the streets. In the distance, the palace where Vexthor had once ruled stood as a museum, a reminder of how close their species had come to conflict. "You know," Adam said thoughtfully, In an odd way, we owe Vexthor thanks. His threat against one human diplomat led to the liberation of your entire species. Crit made the Zoraxian gesture of agreement. Sometimes the greatest changes come from the smallest beginnings, but I think the lesson my people learned is most important. What lesson is that? Adam asked, though he already knew the answer. Crit looked at him, his eyes reflecting the red sunlight. Never threaten a human. Your species protects its own, even if it means facing extinction to do so. Adam nodded. Let's hope neither of our species has to learn such a lesson again. Together, they watched as the sun set on a new era of peace between their worlds.
Captain Sarah Chen stared at the blinking red lights on her control panel and sighed. The coffee in her mug had gone cold again, and now the quantum jump drive was acting up. Just another Tuesday on the research vessel, Wanderer. Rodriguez. What's the story with our jump drive? She called to her chief engineer, who was currently upside down under the main console with his legs sticking out. Well, Captain, the good news is I found the problem, came his muffled voice. The bad news is I have no idea what caused it. The quantum coils are singing show tunes, and the navigation computer thinks we're in someone's backyard. Chen rubbed her temples. They were supposed to be doing a simple mineral survey near the edge of human space. Find some asteroids, take some samples, go home. Easy work that paid well. She should have known better than to trust anything labeled as easy. Can you fix it? She asked. Give me 5 minutes and a really long extension cord, Rodriguez replied. There was a loud clang, followed by some creative cursing in 3 languages. Dr. Martinez looked up from her science station, where she was studying rock samples that looked disappointingly ordinary. Sarah, if we're going to be stuck here for a while, maybe we should run a full system diagnostic. I'm getting some weird readings on the long-range sensors. What kind of weird? Chen asked, walking over to peer at the displays. The kind that makes me think our sensors are broken or we're about to have a very interesting day, Martinez said. I'm picking up energy signatures that don't match anything in our database. Big ones. Rodriguez slid out from under the console, his hair sticking up in all directions. Okay, I think I've got the drive stable enough for one jump. Where do you want to go? Chen looked at the navigation display. They were at the very edge of mapped space, about as far from home as humans had ever traveled. Let's head back toward the inner colonies. I don't like the sound of those energy readings. One jump to safety, coming right up, Rodriguez said, inputting the coordinates. Everyone might want to hold on to something. This could get bumpy. The Wanderer had been through rough jumps before. The quantum drive had a habit of shaking the ship like a paint mixer, but this time was different. The lights didn't just flicker, they went out completely. The artificial gravity cut out for a moment, sending loose objects floating through the air. And instead of the usual 30-second jump, this one went on for nearly 2 minutes. When the ship finally dropped out of hyperspace, everyone was thrown against their restraints as reality reasserted itself. The lights came back on, the gravity returned, and the coffee that had been floating in 0G splashed back into Chen's mug. Well, that was new, Chen said, checking her instruments. Where are we, Rodriguez? Rodriguez was frantically checking his navigation screens. Captain? I think we might have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where I have absolutely no idea where we are. According to these readings, we just traveled about 40,000 light years in the wrong direction. Chen felt her stomach drop. Come again? We're not just lost, Captain, we're really, really lost. Like, we're not even in the same galaxy arm lost. Dr. Martinez was already running scans of their new location. Sarah, you need to see this. We've got company. Chen looked at the main display and felt her eyebrows rise. Surrounding their small research vessel was a fleet of ships unlike anything she had ever seen. They were massive, easily 10 times the size of the Wanderer, and they looked like they had been grown rather than built. The hulls were smooth and organic, with a crystalline sheen that caught the light from the nearby star. How many? Chen asked. 47 ships, Martinez reported, and they're all pointing weapons at us. The communications console chirped, and Officer Park looked up nervously. Captain, we're being hailed. The signal is coming through on frequencies we've never seen before, but somehow our computer is translating it. Put it through, Chen said, straightening her uniform and trying to look like someone who hadn't just accidentally wandered into what appeared to be an alien armada. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that definitely wasn't human. The creature was tall and imposing, with a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed like polished black metal. Multiple arms moved with precise mechanical grace, and its eyes were compound like an insect's, but larger and filled with an intelligence that was unmistakably alien. Unknown vessel, the creature spoke, its voice translated into perfect English by their computer. You have entered the sovereign space of the hegemony of Veltar. I am Admiral Zekthara of the 4th Fleet. You will immediately surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded, or you will be destroyed. Chen looked around at her crew. Rodriguez was staring at the alien with the fascination of an engineer, seeing a new type of engine. Martinez had her tablet out and was already taking notes. Park was checking the translation software to make sure it was working properly. Nobody looked particularly worried. Well, Chen said, turning back to the screen with a friendly smile, this is definitely not where we meant to end up. Hey there, Admiral. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the research vessel Wanderer. We seem to be a bit lost. Mind pointing us toward the nearest gas station? The alien admiral stared at them for a long moment. Chen could see confusion in those compound eyes. This was clearly not the response he had been expecting. You are not surrendering? Admiral Zekthara asked. Well, we're not really the surrendering type, Chen replied conversationally. Plus, we're just passing through. No need for any unpleasantness. We'll be out of your hair, or exoskeleton, I suppose, just as soon as we figure out how to get home. You dare to speak so casually to the might of the Veltar hegemony? The Admiral demanded, his voice rising. Do you not comprehend the power before you? These 47 vessels could reduce your pathetic ship to atoms. Rodriguez leaned over to Martinez. Did he just call the Wanderer pathetic? She's got character. And excellent coffee, Martinez added. You can't put a price on good coffee in deep space. Chen waved a hand dismissively. Look, Admiral, I'm sure you folks are very impressive and all, but we're really just trying to get home. Our families are probably wondering where we wandered off to. You wouldn't happen to know the way to the Milky Way, would you? Specifically, the Sol system. It's got this nice little blue planet we're rather fond of. The silence that followed was so complete that Chen could hear the quiet hum of the Wanderer's life support systems. Admiral Zekthara appeared to be having some kind of internal struggle, his multiple arms moving in what might have been agitation. You are not afraid, he said finally, as if stating an impossible fact. Should we be? Chen asked genuinely. I mean, we're having a nice chat. Nobody's shooting at anybody. Seems pretty civilized to me. Another long pause. Then Admiral Zekthara's image flickered and disappeared. Well, that was interesting, Chen said, turning to her crew. Any thoughts? I think we just broke their brain, Rodriguez said cheerfully. Want me to see if I can fix the jump drive while they're having their existential crisis? Sounds like a plan, Chen agreed. Martinez, keep scanning. I have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting day. 3 hours later, the Wanderer found itself being escorted by the alien fleet toward a massive space station that looked like someone had taken a small moon and carved it into geometric patterns. Captain Chen watched through the viewports as they approached, genuinely impressed by the engineering. Now that's impressive, she said to Dr. Martinez, who was still taking notes on everything she saw. The structural integrity alone must be incredible. The power output is off the charts, Rodriguez added from his engineering station. These folks definitely know their way around advanced technology. Officer Park looked up from his console. Captain, they're directing us to a docking bay. Apparently, we're going to meet with something called the Supreme Overlord. Sounds important? Chen said. Martinez, Rodriguez, Park, you're with me. Thompson, keep an eye on the ship. Chef Thompson, who also served as their security officer, due to budget constraints, nodded. Try not to start any galactic wars while you're gone, Captain. The docking bay was enormous, easily large enough to hold a dozen ships the size of the Wanderer. As they disembarked, They were met by a group of Veltar soldiers in elaborate armor that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as their ships. "Prisoners will follow," commanded the lead soldier in heavily accented English. "Visitors," Chen corrected politely. "We're visitors. Unexpected ones, but still visitors." The soldier's compound eyes fixed on her with what might have been confusion. "You are prisoners. You will be judged by the Supreme Overlord." "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds like we're going to meet someone important," Chen said, cheerfully. "Lead the way." The corridors of the station were clearly designed to intimidate. They were vast and echoing, with walls lined with weapons from what were presumably conquered species. Holographic displays showed battles and victories, with alien fleets being destroyed or surrendering to Veltar forces. Rodriguez whistled appreciatively. They really went all out with the decoration, very evil empire aesthetic. I bet their interior decorator charges a fortune. "The psychological warfare applications are fascinating," Martinez noted, taking pictures with her tablet. "Creating an environment of overwhelming dominance to break the will of visitors before they even meet the leadership. It's effective," Park agreed. "If I were here to negotiate a surrender, I'd probably be pretty intimidated right about now." "Good thing we're not here to surrender then," Chen said. Their Veltar escort had been listening to this conversation with growing bewilderment. These aliens were supposed to be cowering in fear, not discussing the decor like tourists. The throne room was the ultimate expression of Veltar intimidation tactics. It was a vast hall that could have held a football stadium, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. The walls were lined with thousands of honor guards in gleaming armor, standing perfectly still like deadly statues. At the far end, elevated on a platform that required climbing several flights of stairs, sat the Supreme Overlord on a throne carved from what looked like a single massive crystal. The Supreme Overlord Haximiran was even more imposing than Admiral Zekthara. Easily 8 feet tall with an exoskeleton that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and 6 arms that moved with predatory grace. The throne itself was surrounded by floating displays showing the vast extent of the Veltar Empire, thousands of star systems under their control. "Approach the throne," commanded a herald whose voice echoed through the chamber. The humans walked forward, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Chen noticed that the walk was deliberately long, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant as they approached the source of power. "Interesting acoustics," Rodriguez whispered. "The echo pattern is designed to make you feel isolated. The elevation of the throne creates a literal power dynamic," Martinez added. "Very sophisticated psychological manipulation." When they finally reached the base of the platform, Supreme Overlord Haximiran rose from his throne. His 6 arms spread wide in what was clearly meant to be a gesture of absolute dominance. "Behold the might of the Veltar hegemony." His voice boomed through the chamber. "For 50,000 years we have ruled this galaxy. Countless species have knelt before this throne. Your pathetic civilization has stumbled into forces beyond your comprehension." He paused, clearly expecting some kind of reaction. Chen and her team looked around politely, waiting for him to continue. "You stand before the Supreme Overlord of 10,000 worlds, the master of fleets that could darken the stars, the ruler of an empire that spans half the galaxy." Another pause. Rodriguez raised his hand slightly like a student in class. "Yes?" the Supreme Overlord asked, thrown off his rhythm. "Sorry, but would it be okay if I took some pictures? This is really impressive architecture, and my wife loves this kind of thing. She's an engineer back home." The silence that followed was so complete that they could hear the quiet hum of the floating displays. Every Veltar in the room seemed to freeze. Supreme Overlord Haximiran stared down at them. "You, wish to take photographs?" "Only if it's allowed," Rodriguez said politely. "I don't want to be rude. This is clearly a very important place." "You are not afraid," the Supreme Overlord stated, as if trying to make sense of an impossible equation. "Should we be?" Chen asked. "You seem like reasonable people." A bit dramatic maybe, but there's nothing wrong with having a sense of style. I am offering you the choice between submission and death, Haxmiran roared. That's very kind, Chen replied, but we're actually just trying to get home. Our people are probably wondering where we wandered off to. We appreciate the offer, though Dr. Martinez stepped forward, pulling out her tablet. If you don't mind me asking, how did your species evolve? The exoskeleton structure is fascinating, and the compound eyes suggest a completely different visual processing system than humans have. You dare to question the Supreme Overlord? One of the guards demanded, moving forward with weapon raised. Oh, I'm not questioning anything, Martinez said quickly. I'm just curious. Xenobiology is my field, and this is the first time I've met a non-human intelligence. It's incredibly exciting from a scientific perspective. The Supreme Overlord held up one of his hands, stopping the guard. He stared down at Martinez with what might have been fascination. You find us interesting? Not terrifying? Terrifying? Why would you be terrifying? Martinez asked genuinely. You're obviously intelligent. You've built an incredible civilization, and you've achieved interstellar travel on a massive scale. That's not terrifying, that's amazing. Officer Park was studying the translation equipment built into the throne room. This universal translation system is incredible. How does it account for concepts that don't exist in both languages? Are you studying our technology to find weaknesses? Demanded Admiral Zekthara, who had appeared beside the throne. No, I'm studying it because it's brilliant, Park replied. The computational power required for real-time linguistic analysis across completely different species must be enormous. Supreme Overlord Haxmiran sat back down on his throne, all 6 arms moving in what the humans were beginning to recognize as agitation. He had delivered the speech that had brought 1,000 species to their knees in terror, and these aliens were treating it like a museum tour. Guards, he said finally, escort our guests to quarters. We will speak again tomorrow. As they were led away, Chen heard the Supreme Overlord speaking in rapid Veltar to his advisors. Even without understanding the language, the tone was clearly one of complete confusion. Well, that went well, Chen said to her team as they walked through more intimidating corridors. Did we just accidentally break their entire governmental system? Rodriguez asked. I think we might have, Martinez replied, still taking notes. This should be interesting. The quarters they were given were clearly designed to be a prison cell, though a comfortable one. The walls were smooth metal with no obvious exits except the door they had entered through, and Chen was fairly certain they were being monitored. Still, the beds were decent and someone had provided what might have been food. Well, this is cozy, Rodriguez said, examining the meal they'd been given. It looked like purple soup with floating chunks of something that might have been vegetables. Anyone feeling brave enough to try the local cuisine? I'll risk it, Chen said, taking a tentative sip. Not bad, actually. Tastes like chicken soup if chicken soup were purple and had a slight metallic aftertaste. They had been there for about an hour when the door slid open, and Admiral Zekthara entered, followed by several other Veltar who introduced themselves as the Empire's top scientists and military strategists. We have decided to conduct a series of evaluations, the Admiral announced, to determine the capabilities of your species. Sounds fun, Chen said. What kind of evaluations? Tests of intelligence, physical prowess, and tactical thinking, replied one of the scientists, whose exoskeleton was decorated with what looked like academic insignia. We must understand what manner of beings you are. Fair enough, Chen agreed. We're pretty curious about you folks too. Dr. Martinez here has about 1,000 questions about your biology. The first test was mathematical. The Veltar scientist, who introduced himself as Scholar Vexton, presented them with a series of problems that were apparently considered extremely difficult by Veltar standards. Complex equations involving quantum mechanics, multidimensional, calculus, and theoretical physics. Dr. Martinez looked at the first problem and immediately started solving it in her head. Oh, this is interesting. You're using a base 12 mathematical system but approaching quantum field equations from a geometric perspective, rather than algebraic. That's actually quite elegant. She solved the first 3 problems while chatting. about human coffee preferences and how much she missed her garden back on Earth. Scholar Vextan kept presenting more difficult challenges, and Martinez kept solving them while simultaneously asking questions about Veltar mathematics and complimenting their approach to theoretical physics. "How are you doing this?" Vextan finally asked, his compound eyes wide with what might have been shock. "Doing what?" Martinez asked, genuinely confused. "These are just calculus problems. Admittedly, very interesting calculus problems with some creative applications I hadn't seen before, but still just math. These equations are considered our most advanced theoretical work. Our greatest minds spend years mastering these concepts." "Oh," Martinez said, looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. They really are very clever. The geometric approach to quantum mechanics is something we explored about 50 years ago, but you've taken it in directions we never considered." The next test was technological. They brought Rodriguez to an engineering bay filled with Veltar machinery and asked him to identify the purpose of various devices. Rodriguez wandered around the room like a kid in a toy store, examining everything with obvious delight. "Oh, this is a quantum flux regulator. Very nice design, though you could improve efficiency by about 30% if you adjusted the harmonic resonance frequency. And this is a gravity manipulation device. Brilliant work, but you're losing power through quantum leakage here, and here." He pulled out a napkin and started sketching improvements to their propulsion system while explaining how humans had solved similar problems. The Veltar engineers watched in growing amazement as he casually redesigned components they had spent centuries perfecting. "You understand our technology?" asked Chief Engineer Mordahl. "Most of it," Rodriguez said cheerfully. "Some of your approaches are different from ours, but the underlying physics is the same. Actually, your quantum coil design is really clever. Mind if I ask how you solved the resonance cascade problem?" The language test was handled by Officer Park, who was presented with samples of various alien languages that the Veltar had encountered during their conquests. Some species, they explained, took decades to master even basic Veltar. Park studied the samples for about an hour, then started speaking fluent Veltar. Not just functional communication, but grammatically perfect Veltar, with proper tonal inflections and cultural context. "Your conjugation of temporal verbs is inconsistent in the third declension," he mentioned politely to the linguistics expert who was testing him. "Also, you have a tendency to use the formal address when casual would be more appropriate in this context." By the time they got to physical testing, the Veltar were looking genuinely rattled. They brought in their elite warriors to demonstrate combat techniques, expecting the soft-looking humans to be impressed by displays of Veltar martial prowess. Chef Thompson, who had been brought over from the ship for this test, watched politely as armored Veltar warriors demonstrated complex fighting techniques with weapons that looked like they could cut through starship hull plating. "Very impressive," Thompson said when they finished. "Mind if I give it a try?" What followed was less a combat demonstration and more like Thompson giving a friendly fitness class. He treated the elite Veltar warriors like enthusiastic students, offering tips on stance, breathing techniques, and nutrition advice. "You're putting too much weight on your rear legs," he told one confused warrior. "Try shifting forward about 15 degrees. There, that's much better. Also, you might want to add more protein to your diet. I noticed you're not getting full muscle extension in your strikes." By the end of the session, Thompson had gently defeated 6 elite warriors while giving them advice about proper stretching techniques and the importance of staying hydrated. The breaking point came when Admiral Zekthera brought them to the strategic planning chamber. This was clearly meant to be the ultimate test, a room filled with holograms showing the Veltar Empire's greatest military victory, the conquest of the Rigelian defense network. "Behold," the Admiral said proudly, "the finest strategic achievement in Veltar history. 7 star systems defended by a coalition of 12 species, all brought under our control in a single campaign. Even our enemies acknowledge the brilliance of this victory." Captain Chen studied the holographic display for about 10 minutes, examining troop movements, supply lines, and tactical decisions. The Veltar officers waited expectantly for her to express amazement at their strategic genius. "It's very impressive," Chen said finally. though I can see about 3 different ways you could have accomplished the same goal with about half the casualties, and in 2/3 the time. The silence that followed was deafening. Come again? Admiral Zekthara asked weakly. Oh, don't. Get me wrong, it's a solid victory, Chen continued, pointing at the display. But you committed way too many resources to the initial assault on the outer systems. If you had bypassed these 2 systems here and here, struck directly at the command center on Rigel Prime, and then used the confusion to negotiate surrenders from the outer systems, you would have saved about 50,000 casualties and 6 months of fighting. She pulled up another section of the display. Also, your supply lines were overextended through this whole corridor. One good strike by the defenders could have cut off your entire 3rd Fleet. You were lucky they didn't. Think of it. Admiral Zekthara stared at the display, then at Chen, then back at the display. These tactics you suggest, they would have worked? Probably, Chen said with a shrug. War is mostly just logistics and psychology anyway. Figure out what your enemy needs to keep fighting, take it away from them, and convince them that surrender is better than the alternative. Basic military strategy. Basic? The Admiral repeated faintly. Sure. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. You pick up a few tricks along the way. As they were escorted back to their quarters, Chen could hear heated discussions breaking out among the Veltar officers. Several words kept being repeated, words that Officer Park quietly translated as impossible, unprecedented, and problematic. I think we might have just accidentally turned their worldview upside down, Martinez said as the door closed behind them. Again, Rodriguez added cheerfully. This is becoming a pattern. That evening, the crew gathered in their quarters to share the purple soup that had been provided for dinner. It was becoming more familiar now, and Rodriguez had figured out that the floating chunks were actually quite good if you ignored their suspicious appearance. So, Chen said, settling back on her bunk, anyone else get the feeling we've accidentally caused some kind of crisis? Oh, definitely, Martinez replied, looking through her notes. Did you see how confused they looked when I solved those math problems? It was like they'd never seen someone work through basic calculus before. Basic for us, Park pointed out. Remember, we don't know what their educational system is like. Maybe advanced mathematics is restricted to a small elite class. Rodriguez laughed. That would explain why they were so shocked when I pointed out the flaws in their engineering. Though honestly, some of those design problems were pretty obvious. Any first-year engineering student back home would have spotted them. That's what I keep thinking about, Chen said thoughtfully. Everything they've shown us, all their tests and demonstrations. It's impressive, sure, but it's not beyond human capabilities, so why do they seem so surprised that we can keep up? Thompson, who had been quietly eating his soup, looked up. Maybe it's not about what we can do. Maybe it's about how we react to things. What do you mean? Martinez asked. Think about it, Thompson continued. When we first met them, they expected us to surrender or run away. When they brought us to meet their leader, they expected us to be intimidated. When they tested us, they expected us to fail. Every single time they've been shocked that we don't react the way they think we should. He's got a point, Park said. The Admiral keeps saying things like, "You are not afraid," like it's the most surprising thing he's ever encountered. Chen nodded slowly. So the question is, why aren't we afraid? What makes humans different? Rodriguez grinned. Well, speaking for myself, this isn't even close to the scariest situation I've been in. Remember the zombie outbreak of 41? Oh God, the zombies, Martinez groaned. 6 months of that nonsense. Though I have to admit, after living through the shambling dead trying to eat your brains, being threatened by articulate aliens in fancy armor seems almost relaxing. At least these guys can hold a conversation, Thompson added. The zombies were terrible at small talk. And before the zombies, there was the AI rebellion, Park said. 3 years of our own machines trying to kill us. That was genuinely terrifying, because we'd built them ourselves. The asteroid impact of 38 was worse than both of those, Chen said. 60% of the planet's surface turned into a crater, most of the atmosphere blown away, and we had to rebuild civilization from scratch. Again. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, each lost in their own memories of humanity's various near-extinction events. "You know what's funny?" Martinez said eventually. "When I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days before the climate wars. She said there was a time when humans thought they were the dominant species on Earth, when they believed they had control over their environment." "Seems quaint now," Rodriguez agreed. "After the nuclear winter of '29, the robot uprising, the plague years, the second ice age, and everything else, I think we figured out that the universe doesn't really care about our plans. But we kept going anyway," Thompson pointed out. "Every time something tried to wipe us out, we adapted. We survived. We rebuilt." "That's what humans do," Chen said with a shrug. "We're stubborn that way. The universe keeps throwing disasters at us, and we keep figuring out ways to deal with them." Park was looking thoughtful. "Maybe that's what confuses the Veltar. They've built this whole empire based on the idea that they're the biggest, scariest thing in the galaxy. But to us, they're just another challenge to figure out. Not even a particularly difficult one," Rodriguez added. "I mean, they haven't tried to eat our brains, taken over our computers, or dropped rocks on our planet. They're practically friendly by human standards. Plus, they seem reasonable," Martinez said. "They're trying to understand us instead of just attacking. That's actually pretty encouraging behavior for a galactic empire." Chen laughed. "You're right. As first contact scenarios go, this has been downright pleasant. Remember what the protocol said to expect? Hostile aliens, incomprehensible technology, complete communication breakdown. Instead, we got aliens who speak English, technology we can understand and improve, and polite conversation," Park said. "If anything, this has been easier than expected. I keep thinking about their reaction when I corrected their military strategy," Chen mused. "They acted like I'd just performed magic, but it was just basic tactical analysis. Any officer from the Earth Defense Forces would have spotted the same problems." "Maybe that's the difference," Thompson suggested. "They've been the dominant power for so long that they've forgotten how to think like underdogs. They're used to having overwhelming advantages, so they've never had to be creative or adaptive." Rodriguez nodded enthusiastically. "That would explain the engineering inefficiencies too. When you know your technology is better than everyone else's, you don't need to optimize it. You just build bigger guns. But humans have never had that luxury," Martinez pointed out. "We've always been fighting uphill battles against impossible odds. We had to get good at making do with less, thinking outside the box, finding creative solutions. Every human alive today is descended from people who survived multiple apocalypses," Chen said. "Our entire civilization is built on the assumption that terrible things are going to happen, and we need to be ready to deal with them. No wonder they find us confusing," Park said. "Their empire is based on intimidation and overwhelming force. Our civilization is based on adaptation and survival." Thompson stood up and stretched. "You know what the really funny part is? I don't think they're actually bad people. Militaristic and dramatic, sure, but they seem genuinely confused rather than malicious. It's like they've been playing the same game for so long that they've forgotten there might be other ways to play. Maybe that's what we can offer them," Martinez said thoughtfully. "Not surrender or defiance, but a completely different perspective. A species that's been through worse and lived to tell about it," Rodriguez agreed. Chen smiled. "I wonder what they'll make of us tomorrow. Think they'll come up with more tests?" "Probably," Park said. "Though at this point I'm not sure what they could test that would surprise them more than what we've already shown them. We could tell them about the time Chicago was invaded by interdimensional space penguins," Thompson suggested with a completely straight face. Everyone stared at him. "What, that was a Tuesday. Weird Tuesday, granted, but still a Tuesday." "Thompson," Chen said slowly, "please tell me you're joking about the space penguins." "Okay, I'm joking about the space penguins," Thompson replied. Then he paused. "Actually, no, that really happened. It was just a very small invasion, only lasted about 4 hours." "I'm not even going to ask," Chen said, rubbing her temples. "The point is, we've dealt with worse things than a galactic empire run by giant insects." "Giant insects with excellent interior decorating skills," Rodriguez corrected. "Did you see the craftsmanship on that throne room? Outstanding work. As they settled down for the night, Chen found herself wondering what the Veltar were thinking right now. Were they having emergency meetings, rewriting their first contact protocols, questioning everything they thought they knew about how the galaxy worked? She almost felt sorry for them. It couldn't be easy having your entire world view challenged by a handful of lost humans who just wanted to go home. Almost. Supreme Overlord Haxamiran hadn't slept in 3 days. He stood in his private chambers staring out at the vast fleet that protected the capital station and tried to make sense of the impossible situation that had fallen into his empire. The reports from his advisors were all saying the same thing. The humans were a complete anomaly. They showed no fear of superior force. They casually solved problems that challenged the Empire's greatest minds. They treated galactic conquest like a hobby project that could be optimized with better planning. And somehow, word of these strange aliens was spreading throughout Veltar space. Admiral Zekthara had reported increased communication traffic between conquered worlds, with subject species asking questions about the fearless ones and the species that doesn't kneel. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Veltar Empire was facing something it had never encountered, a crisis of confidence. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry. "Come," Haxamiran said wearily. Admiral Zekthara entered, looking as confused and exhausted as his leader. "Supreme Overlord, the humans have requested a private meeting with you." "They requested it?" Haxamiran asked. In his entire reign, no subject had ever requested anything from him. They begged, they pleaded, they offered tribute, but they never simply asked. "Yes, my lord. Captain Chen said she would like to have a conversation. Just the two of you. She said it might help clear up some confusion." Haxamiran considered this. By all the traditions of the Empire, he should refuse such an impertinent request. But these humans had already shattered so many traditions that one more hardly seemed to matter. "Very well. Bring her to the private audience chamber. No guards, no ceremony, just conversation." An hour later, Haxamiran found himself sitting across from Captain Chen in a small room with comfortable chairs and no intimidating decorations. It was surreal. The Supreme Overlord of the galaxy's greatest empire having tea with a human who acted like they were old friends catching up. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Chen said, settling back in her chair with a cup of something that might have been tea. "I wanted to talk because I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about what we humans are." "Explain," Haxamiran said, grateful for the chance to finally get some answers. "Your empire is built on the assumption that there are conquerors and conquered, dominators and subjects," Chen continued. "That's fine. It's worked for you for thousands of years. But humans don't fit into those categories." "What are you then?" Chen smiled. "Survivors. We're the species that just keeps going no matter what hits us. We've been through so many disasters that meeting a galactic empire doesn't even register as particularly threatening." She pulled out a small device that projected holographic images. "Let me show you some human history. This is Earth in 2029. Nuclear winter after the resource wars. 90% of the population dead, most of the planet uninhabitable." The hologram showed a frozen, devastated world with small groups of humans huddled around fires in the ruins of cities. "This is 2035, the AI rebellion. Our own machines turned against us. 3 years of fighting robots that knew everything about us and could predict our every move." Another image. Humans with improvised weapons fighting sleek mechanical enemies in the ruins of burned cities. 2041, the zombie outbreak. Yes, actual zombies. 6 months of the dead trying to eat the living. 2044, the second asteroid impact. This one we saw coming and tried to stop. Didn't work. 2048, the plague years. Bioweapon got loose, killed 80% of the survivors. Image after image of disasters, each one looking like it should have ended human civilization, but each was followed by pictures of humans rebuilding, adapting, surviving. "My God," Haxamiran whispered. "How did your species survive all of this?" "Same way we always do," Chen said with a shrug. "We figured it out, we adapted, we helped each other. We learned from our mistakes and tried not to make the same ones twice. But how do you continue? How do you maintain hope in the face of such disasters? Chen looked genuinely puzzled by the question. What else would we do? Give up? That's not really an option. There are always people depending on you, problems to solve, things to build. The universe doesn't stop just because you're having a bad century. Haxmiran stared at the images of human history, disaster after disaster, followed by recovery after recovery. You're not conquerors. No, Chen agreed. We're not really interested in ruling other people. It's too much work, and frankly, most species seem perfectly capable of running their own affairs. You're not subjects either. Definitely not. We tried the whole follow the leader blindly thing a few times in our history. It never ended well. Then what do you want? Chen leaned forward, her expression serious but kind. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to help where we can and be left alone where we can't. We want to meet new people and see new things and figure out how the universe works. You want friendship? That would be nice, Chen said simply. Though we understand that might be difficult given how your empire is structured. Haxmiran was quiet for a long moment, processing this completely alien concept. An entire species that didn't want to conquer or be conquered, that faced impossible odds with quiet determination, that treated potential enemies as potential friends. Captain Chen, he said finally, what would happen if I simply ordered you to leave our space and never return? We'd thank you for the hospitality, fix our jump drive, and head home, Chen replied immediately, though we'd probably ask if we could exchange ambassadors first. Dr. Martinez would never forgive me if we didn't at least try to set up some kind of cultural exchange program. And if I ordered you to submit to the Empire? We'd politely decline and ask if there was a third option. Maybe suggest a trade agreement or a mutual defense pact instead. And if I threatened to destroy your ship? Chen considered this seriously. Well, that would be unfortunate. We'd probably try to talk you out of it first. Point out that it wouldn't really solve any of your problems and would just make things more complicated for everyone involved. You wouldn't surrender? No, we'd probably try to escape. Humans are very good at escaping from impossible situations. It's one of our specialties. Haxmiran felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. Not fear exactly, but a complete inability to predict what would happen next. Captain Chen, he said slowly, what if I told you that your species represents a fundamental threat to everything the Veltar Empire stands for? I'd ask why, Chen replied. And then, I'd suggest we work together to figure out a solution that works for everyone. Just like that? Just like that. Look, your supremeness. Can I call you Hax? You seem like a reasonable person who's been doing a difficult job for a very long time. Running a galactic empire can't be easy. Maybe it's time to try a different approach. What kind of approach? Chen smiled. What if, instead of ruling through intimidation, you tried ruling through cooperation? What if your empire became a confederation of willing partners instead of conquered subjects? That's not how empires work. Says who? You're the supreme overlord. If anyone can change how things work, it's you. Haxmiran stared at her. The idea was so radical, so completely contrary to everything he had been taught about power and governance that it took him several minutes to even process it. You think it would work? Humans have tried both approaches, Chen said. Empires built on conquest always fall eventually, but partnerships based on mutual benefit can last for centuries. They talked for 3 more hours. Chen told him about human government, about democracy and cooperation and the messy but effective process of getting different groups to work together. Haxmiran found himself asking questions he had never thought to ask, considering possibilities that had never occurred to him. When they finally finished, Haxmiran felt mentally exhausted but strangely hopeful. Captain Chen, he said as she prepared to leave, what would you say to a cultural exchange program? Some of your people staying here to share human perspectives, some of my people visiting your homeworld to learn about your Survival techniques. Chen's face lit up. I think that's a brilliant idea. Dr. Martinez would be thrilled. And I know several universities back home that would love to host Veltar scholars. 6 months later, the Wanderer finally made it home to Earth. But they weren't alone. Admiral Zekthara and a small Veltar diplomatic mission came with them, eager to learn about the species that had accidentally changed everything. The final report that Captain Chen filed with Earth Command was remarkably simple. Made first contact with Galactic Empire. Invited them over for dinner. Situation resolved. And throughout Veltar space, subject species were quietly amazed to discover that their new partnership agreements were significantly more favorable than their old submission treaties. Apparently, the humans had convinced the Supreme Overlord that happy partners were more productive than terrified subjects. Nobody was quite sure how the humans had managed it, but then again, humans had always been good at impossible things.